You are never going to guess what I found inside this apothecary coffee table that I found at Habitat Restore for only $40. This was probably my biggest find yet, but I'm going to take you through the restoration process. Stay tuned for the reveal. Now this piece had some awkward looking industrial legs on it that were put on probably after they were completely drilled into the base. It had really old sticky varnish that was in horrible shape. The wood underneath, we've got to see what kind of shape it's in, so we're going to strip it. The products I'm using were gifted to me by Greenies. I am a partner of theirs because I love their products. They're soy-based, biodegradable, non-toxic. You'll see me wear no mask with these typically, especially when I'm working outside. And I don't have to wear gloves. I do prefer them though because it is soy-based. They can bother your hands a little bit, but this stuff is amazing to work with. It strips everything from paint to varnish to all types of lacquered finishes. The product combination I'm using right here is called the Green Easy Strip and Clean with a Finishing Cleanser. You use the gel to strip it. I put saran wrap over the top, especially if it's a really dry day. I don't want it to dry too quickly. When you peel that off, half of the varnish comes off with that, but then you use a scraper. You can use a putty knife, a carbide scraper, anything that you want to scrape off the thick layer of varnish. Once the majority of that comes off, you use a finishing cleanser and put a generous amount on it. And then I use a steel wool scrub brush or just steel wool, probably in the grade 1 or grade 2, with gloves on because that stuff can go through nitrile gloves. And you just scrub the piece down. This removes any rest of the debris that's still stuck on there. It cleans the surface and acts like an after clean. With paint, this stuff pretty much just comes off, but this is really old varnish, so it took quite a few coats of that spray to really scrub everything off. Once it was dry by the next day, I used a 120 grit with my square DeWalt sander, and all this is linked in the description below. My square sander is my beast of a sander. This thing is corded, but it is a workhorse. This was pretty gritty wood, and so to get the rest of this off, I used 120 all the way around on the drawers, on the sides, on the top, and then I switched over to a 150 grit and then a 180 grit. And each time in between, you want to take a microfiber cloth or a brush and blow off or wipe down all the dust so that you don't grind that back into the surface, creating sometimes sanding marks. For hard to reach sanding surfaces, I love these contour pads that I found on Amazon. They come in all shapes and sizes to get in every single crack and crevice. I should be wearing gloves right now, and this was really stupid because my fingerprints are probably gone at this point. But when you have gloves on, you can wrap the sandpaper around and get into every groove. After you do one sanding with 150 grit and then one sanding with 180 grit, your surface is ready to accept stain. But before that, you want to make sure that there's any repairs that you need to do them now. This needed tiny little nails. They are finishing nails, and I'm grabbing them with needle nose pliers and then I'm hammering them into any of the wood that is loose. This is going to tighten everything up and make sure this wood is not going to be chipping off. Before staining, I wipe everything down with mineral spirits. This makes sure that it gets into any crack and crevice and gets all the dust out. And it cleans the surface and it kind of acts as a wood conditioner. The two stains I'm using are the Evolve stains. They are soy-based stains by Green Easy. I'm using Aged Rock and Bamboo. I wanted to use a 1-to-1 combo because I didn't like either of them as they were on their own, but the combination of them was going to create a really soft beige light stain. I used a staining sponge, and this you didn't have to work very fast with. It's very forgiving. And once you get it on the surface, you do one section at a time. You use a shop cloth, and these shop cloths are amazing and soak up so much, and then you wipe the majority of it off, almost wiping it into the surface. Until you know a stain's dry time, you really do want to work section to section to make sure that it's still workable. Sometimes when you're working with complete water-based stains, they dry super fast and you need to add an additive to them so that they can last longer, or do it in shorter sections. This soy-based stain is awesome because I could do large sections without it drying at all. At this point, I still had not gotten the drawers out. They were really tight. I was able to wedge them out a little bit, and I thought I'll just take them fully out later so that I can clean them. But that's where the treasure was hidden. I'm using a protective top coat over the stain once it dried to make sure that this is a satin finish, to make sure it's durable and to protect it from anything that's going to get on a coffee table. I headed off to Home Depot with my pup and I grabbed some legs because we are going to build a new base. Now, did you know that Home Depot and Lowe's have a ton of legs that you can get? You can match it up. I got these 2x2s that were already in my scrap wood pile, and then I grabbed some legs to match. The age of this apothecary coffee table was pretty old, and so I needed to olden or antique these legs. I've never done this before, so I tried all sorts of things. I tried chisels, I tried rubbing it on the concrete, I tried hammers, I tried the other end of a hammer. All of them worked great. It just was a little bit of work. And then you have to wipe everything down to make sure you get all the dirt off before you stain these and before you build them together. Okay, this is where I found the treasure. I flipped the coffee table upside down and the front drawer came out, and out popped these newspaper articles that were put on boards from 1890. You guys, this was the biggest treasure find for me. 1890. These news articles are priceless and so amazing. It was so fun to read them. They are all sorts of stuff like PPP cures syphilis and lots of other things about snake oil. But I'm so excited to show my husband. He was not home yet and he is a massive history buff. I know he's going to make us keep this table, but it's okay. I'm already in love with it. Now you can see at this point, I also got from Habitat for Humanity a Kreg Simple tool. So this Kreg jig goes together. It works on 2x2s amazingly. I was able to drill in 2 screw holes at the base. So this is going to go underneath the table because you don't want one because it's good. The whole wood's going to be twisty and it's going to be able to rotate. So you want 2 so it keeps it structurally sound. Now I'm putting them in just about 1 inch below so they're not all completely sandwiched at the top. Now I knew this base was going to be different wood than the actual coffee table itself, so I was going to give it a different variation of that stain that we used just because it was going to be off anyways, and so I wanted to make it a little bit lighter. So I used a 2/3 combination of the lighter stain to the darker stain. Once the frame had been put together, I was able to put the mounting brackets on and then put it on the coffee table. Now I know it looks wonky. I know that it looks wonky, but this thing is solid. And it's going to need a solid surface to go on so that it doesn't stay wonky like this. This did take measuring and cutting beforehand so that I could make sure that all my measurements were accurate and going to make sure that the space is even. My husband got home and he was absolutely thrilled. He said, this has to go in our living room. We're going to sell our coffee table. And I said, all right. Before it was even done, I was going to post it for sale and had already put a listing online, but I took it right down. I sprayed the handles with a bronze and then a gold over the top to give them a little bit of a hammered look. Once it was dry, I slid the boards and the plastic that they came with right over the top of them. Now I am going to epoxy this in the future because I don't trust my children not to spill stuff or me on this coffee table, possibly getting underneath the plastic and onto those newspapers. Now, what do you guys think about this find? What do you think about the new base? Did you love the old one? That's okay if you did. I want you guys to drop me a comment below. If you need 10% off Greenies, make sure that you use my code. Stay tuned for more furniture flips and home DIY projects. I'll see you guys next time.